When did you find out that this particular prisoner had been sent to a women's prison?
When it became evident in the media, I would not normally uniformly be told of every prisoner that was being sent to prison.
So even though it was quite a high-profile, ongoing High Court case where people were aware of this issue, nobody had informed you?
I've just answered that question.
OK. So once the transfer did become known about, you initially defended the decision. The following day, the First Minister announced that the prisoner was being removed. Do you now regret defending that decision initially?
I think I've said at the time to Parliament that I had faith in the basis upon which the Scottish Prison Service deals with prisoners who are transgender. They have an extremely strong track record in doing that. They have managed to protect women, they've managed to protect other prisoners, and they've managed to protect their staff. I expressed that support for the prison service at the time, and I'm happy to express it again now.
OK, so on January 31st, you told the Parliament, and I quote, "The SPS was, of course, aware of Ministers' views. It would be frankly bizarre if the SPS had not been aware of Ministers' views," and that was in respect of the decision to remove this prisoner from the female estate. So how exactly were those views made known?
Well, I think you've just mentioned there was a substantial degree of publicity around that, and obviously ministers have discussions with officials and the agencies for which they have responsibility. As I say, the process that was followed in this case was the process that's always followed. I had faith in that process, and of course there's very little evidence to suggest that the way that this individual prisoner was dealt with would have been different in any other circumstances. So I'll just repeat the point. I do have faith in the Scottish Prison Service's ability to deal with it. The changes which were announced, I've just mentioned those in my opening statement, were to provide further reassurance, and I think that was the right thing to do.
How were the views made known to the Prison Service?
I've just explained that, Convener.
Okay, if I can maybe...
I'm not entirely sure we know how the government communicated to the Prison Service its dissatisfaction with this prisoner being in the female estate, and I think, you know, given that we've got this partial review in front of us, it doesn't explain that. I think it's a perfectly reasonable question. Maybe the Prison Service can tell us how the government made its views known.
Ms. Medhurst. So there was a conversation during which I was asked about the where we were in the case management of that individual, because the case management process obviously applies almost immediately, particularly where somebody is held in segregation. And it was during that conversation with officials that I was made aware of Ministers' views on that. But what I would say, I'll make this very clear, that the placement of prisoners, unless it is a policy matter, is an operational matter for the SPS. So that decision was taken by operational people in respect of both the initial placement of the individual and the subsequent decision to move the individual. It was in no way a ministerial decision. It was for SPS and for operational people.
So going back to the contact, was it a conversation instigated by government officials? They contacted you?
It was a telephone call to me, yes.
From the Justice Directorate or from... Right. Explaining that the Justice Secretary and the First Minister had concerns?
Explaining that there were ministerial concerns within government, and there was a requirement to understand where we were in the process. That's what I was asked. I then obviously checked where we were in the process. But as I say, the decisions that were taken in respect of an individual case, which should not be discussing, any decision on the operational placement of an individual is for the prison service.
So the representation that was made to you was more general, as in we have these concerns, not any suggestion that you should act in a certain way?
No, there was no suggestion that I should act. It was general concerns about the placement of the individual, about it was general concerns about the individual, and a request to better understand where we were in the process. Is that?